Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the show, the RR Show, the best show on the internet, bringing you the hottest, the spiciest, the bestest Reddit stories. Today, with episode 207, we've got something a little different for you. We're trying things out. We're expanding our horizons, so to speak. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we are jumping into a drum roll, please. I don't work here, lady. Our first story is from HickTL. How an entitled principal abducted my niece since he thought she was skipping class. First, a little explanation. Here in Germany, we have Bundesländer, kinda like the states in the US, but way less independent. Now, since the school system is up to the BL, they often started their summer vacations at different times. The biggest reason being that the highways become chaos if everybody wants to drive to their summer vacation at the same time. Also, this is not a recent story, it happened quite a few years ago. My niece is from Bavaria, and I am from Baden-Württemberg. Her summer vacation starts a whole week earlier than ours, and she came for a visit with my brother and her siblings. It was the morning and we decided to take Doggo for a walk and go to the bakery on the other side of the street, opposite a big school complex. I went in, she stayed outside with Doggo. I came back out and she was gone. So, let us introduce our protagonist. There's PP, Principal Pissant, me, and N, my niece. I decided to call her on the cell phone, and this was the conversation. "Oh, thank God you're calling." Principal Pissant can be heard in the background screaming, "How dare you take a phone call while I'm talking to you? You're in enough trouble for skipping class!" As I later found out, he ripped the phone out of her hand and must have hung up. I realised what must have happened and went into the school to clear up the misunderstanding and go right away to the principal's office, hoping she would either be there or soon be brought by a teacher. Outside, I already hear him screaming at her, "Stop giving me a fake name and stop lying! You won't get out of here until I have the truth! And I promise you this, young lady, this will be mentioned in your school certificate!" We have grades for general behaviour here, and teachers can also make comments in there. It's something employers care about if you look for an apprenticeship, for example. I didn't bother knocking and just went straight in. "Who are you? And how dare you just come in here without knocking?" "I'm this girl's uncle, and what the hell do you think you are doing here? She does not go to your school." "Ah, I guess you're the one on the phone? Nice try, but you will not help her trick her way out of this. I will get to the bottom of this and I will only release her to her parents. Now get out of my office or I will call the police and have you arrested for trespassing in a school." Schools are protected places, so you get in way more trouble here for trespassing than usual. I'll stay right here to protect my niece from your crazy ass, and calling the cops sounds like a really good idea. After all, you have just abducted a child, my niece. So I did the call and just told the police that my niece got abducted and to come to the principal's office ASAP. "Do you really expect me to believe your fake phone call?" Then started to shout at my niece again, who was in tears by now. "Stop fucking shouting at my niece. You will not address her until the police are here, or I will shut you up." "Right, that's it. I'm calling the police now. You will be arrested, and finally I'll find out her real name." So he called the police, only to find out I actually did call the police. Suddenly, he was not so sure anymore, and you could tell the cogs in his head were finally starting to tick. About 5 minutes later, the police arrived and they asked us separately. Here is roughly what my niece told the cops. She was waiting outside the bakery when Principal Pissant came streaming at her like a bat out of hell. He screamed at her that he was really fed up with people skipping school the last week before vacation starts and will make an example out of her. Before she could get a word in edgeways, he grabbed her by the arm really hard, like hard enough that she had a bad bruise for over a week. And that's what started to get him into real trouble. The cops also took her data and confirmed she is from Bavaria. They then asked us if we wanted to press charges, and I said, throw the fucking book at him. Principal Pissant heard the police saying press charges and suddenly realized he was in a real deep heap of shit. So he came over.
Hey, this is just a misunderstanding. You have to understand, I have to be strict with people skipping school.
If by being strict you mean assaulting a 12-year-old girl so badly she has a handprint from you on her arm that will create a huge bruise, abducting her from my care and wrongfully imprisoning her in your office while screaming at her and scaring the bejesus out of her, then I do not have to understand that.
Please, you're completely blowing this out of proportion. I could get suspended without pay over this, even lose my job.
Good. Anybody who treats and scares a 12-year-old girl like that should never get to work with kids again. In the end, he really did lose his job, and I am very glad he did. During the investigation, it turned out he was a sorry excuse for a teacher anyway, who belittles kids, always took the teacher's side no matter how wrong they were, and even had slapped kids on several occasions. He went to court for assault and attempted abducting, plus wrongful imprisonment, plus a few more bodily harms against students. He lost his job and pension, got 2 years on probation, 500 hours community service, with the stipulation it could be nothing that involved kids. He was also forbidden to ever work with kids again. Alright guys, our next one is from Billiam201. I know your number, but... Quite some time ago, my girlfriend and I, now my wife of more than 15 years, moved in together and had to set up all the things: cable, internet, phone, etc. We got our home phone number, our 2 cell phones, and we were off to the races. Almost immediately, we started getting calls for an establishment that does custom framing and various other art-related things. Let's call them Expo for Art. Of course, we had caller ID, and we had friends that would call us, but inevitably, if we didn't recognize the number, it was likely someone wanting to find out if their order was complete or their frame was done, of what their opening hours were, or any other thousands of questions. I'm sure anyone else who's had this happen to them will recognize this exchange. Sorry, that's no longer their number. This is a residence. Yes, I'm sure. No, I'm not giving you my address. No, I don't know their new number. Yes, I have a phone book, but so do you. Eventually, after 1,000 of these and changing the message on our answering machine to say, this is not, I repeat, this is not Expo for Art. If you're trying to reach Expo for Art, please hang up, look up their number and try that, because we aren't them. Well, eventually I got the gazillionth call and I asked the person on the other end of the line where they keep getting this number. Well, it's printed on my receipt, I guess. I just call this other number. Well, any chance you could give me that one? Thanks. I call it. Hello, Expo for Art. You guys are still giving out my home phone number on your receipts. Yes, so? Well, fucking stop it. It's been at least a year since you haven't had that number. At least cross it out or something. Yeah, that would be a pain in the ass. I'm not making my employees do that. So, you're the manager. I'm the owner. So, let me see if I have this right. You, what was your name again? Let's call him Fred. You, Fred, have decided that it's too inconvenient to cross my home phone number off your receipts, so you're just going to keep giving it out. Yep, what are you going to do, sue me? Maybe. Whatever, I got shit to do, goodbye. I called a lawyer. Didn't really have a leg to stand on. I went to the store and asked for Fred. Fred's not here. He's hardly ever here, really. You want me to call him? No, it's fine. I know this is going to sound odd, but any chance I can see one of your receipts? She picks up a receipt book and shows it to me, and sure enough, it's got my phone number at the top above another one. I say, I thought so. I couldn't get you at the other number. Some guy yelled at me and I didn't have my old receipt, so I had to come down here. Oh, we've been having a lot of that ever since Fred decided we didn't need 2 phone lines. But he just bought like 20 boxes of these receipt books and business cards, and he's too cheap to buy more until they run out. I'd hate to be that guy. Yeah, that's gotta suck, ain't it? So I went home and hatched my evil plan. Next phone number I didn't recognize. Hello, Expo for Art. Hi, this is Mary Smith. I dropped off a thing last week to be framed. Is it ready? Oh, well, let me check. Yes it is. We finished it this morning. I hope you don't mind, but we decided to upgrade the matting because of the weight of the piece. It's the same colour, and we won't be charging you more since it was my decision. Oh, thank you. I'll be down to pick it up later today. What time do you close? I looked down at the business card with my number, and the hour's clearly marked 11 to 4. Take your time. We'll be here until 7. Thank you so much. Can you tell me how much that was? That'd be $19.99, man, plus tax, so $21.39. Wow, that's cheap. Are you sure? Of course. If anyone has a problem, tell them you talk to Fred. Okay, thank you. See you around 6. See you then. Thank you for calling Expo for Art. 4 weeks I kept giving out completely random information. How much is a 36-inch by 48-inch matted frame? I don't know, let's say $24.99. Wow, that's cheap. How much to have it done custom? How they want it? Custom's an extra, I don't know, $10. So $34.99. Wow, that's cheap. I'll be right down. What was your name? Fred? See you in 10, Fred. How much to have the entire front page of the New York Times from 9/11 mounted and framed? $33.99. Unless you want our special proprietary newspaper frame and mat service, only $49.99 and guaranteed for life, only at Expo for Art. Tell them Fred sent you. I can only imagine the number of pissed off people who showed up to pick up orders that weren't ready, and when they finally were given a price way higher than what Fred had told them over the phone. Eventually someone let slip that they called the number on the receipt, and that's what Fred had told them. Fred was not happy. Hello, thank you for calling Expo for Art. This is Fred. You're not Fred, I'm Fred. Are you trying to put me out of business? Why, Fred, whatever do you mean? Someone has been giving prices to my customers and telling them their orders are in when they're not due for weeks. Well, Fred, who called them? Nobody called them, they called us. Then what's the problem? If someone called you and got pricing information, that would seem to be your problem. They didn't call me, they called you. Well, how would that happen? Your number's on my receipts and business cards. Oh my. It seems to me there's a very simple solution here. Take my number off your receipts and business cards. Do you have any idea how much promotional material costs? Is it more than it costs to do these jobs for the prices you're quoting? Is it more than it costs to lose customers, or less than that? This is extortion. Call it what you want, Fred. The choices and consequences are entirely up to you. A week later. Hello, Expo for Art, this is Fred. I've ordered new receipt books and cards. Can you please stop this bullshit? Sure. Bye, Fred. Alrighty, our next story is from Whips Solo. Karen demands I move 2 cars impounded by the police and meets Mr. Sparky. This story is from roughly 2013. I was an adjuster for Lizard Insurance and would go to many tow lots after car accidents and decide if a car was a total loss or to send it to a body shop, as well as do the initial write-up for an estimate on repair costs. The tow lot I was at this day also worked with the state police and housed their overflow storage for anything deemed evidence and on hold from release. These vehicles were kept behind a locked gate inside the already fenced, gated tow yard. I was there to do an appraisal on 2 vehicles that had been involved in a minor accident. However, both were left unable to drive from the scene due to either multiple flats, lights knocked out, or windows busted. I finished the first vehicle and I've started taking photos of the second vehicle. I have headphones in and I'm listening to the album Cavalcade by the Flatliners. Seriously, check them out. Anywho, I see a woman, I guess around 50, walk up to the police evidence lot and the gates swing open out the corner of my eye. Not paying much attention as the vehicles I was working with were on the same side of the lot, but about 50 meters down from the evidence lot. As my back is turned to this woman, that I will hereon refer to as Karen, I take the last couple of photos I need. The last being a photograph of the VIN of the vehicle, which is located where the windshield meets the hood, almost on the dash through the windscreen. I hope that makes sense. Karen, out of literally nowhere, grabs both cables to my headphones from behind and rips them out of my ears.
Excuse me? Why are there 2 cars in front of mine so I can't get it out?
This lot would stack cars in 4 or 5 deep, side by side, then move them around with a small truck to release them. Please don't touch me, and I don't think you should be in there, and
You shouldn't be listening to music on the job anyway, or slacking off, taking pictures of other people's belongings. You're probably back here stealing.
I attempt to point at the Lizard Insurance logo on my blue jacket, but Karen continues on.
Are you going to do your job, or do I need to call the police because you're refusing to give me my property?
Have you been into the office at ABC Towing?
No, I saw you out here and need to move these cars so I can get mine and leave.
As Karen opens the door and gets into the first car of the ones blocking her.
Hey, no, you can't do that. It's police evidence.
I use my cell phone to call ABC Towing and inform them.
If you won't move these cars, then I will. Where are the fucking keys?
In the office, with the employees. At this time, the manager comes running out with one of those weird smartphone Nextel style phones in his hand.
Hey lady, get out of those cars. They're property of the state police.
All the while frantically uses his Nextel to talk to someone. At this point, the manager sees the chain used to keep the lot closed has been cut with bolt cutters. Karen was carrying a pair of bolt cutters and had thrown them into her car when she was back at it. Manager and Karen are arguing back and forth. I intently listen and half pay attention as I finish my duties for work. About 8, maybe 10 minutes pass and 7 police cars come flying back into the lot. Manager greets the police and explains what's going on, but not after Karen attempts to scream at the police that I had stolen her car. The police tell Karen to stand over in the direction he points, sending one of the officers to wait with her. Turns out the lieutenant was on scene, who was in charge of the county's police tow licenses. After getting M's story, Lieutenant comes to me and takes mine. While I inform him of what happens, Karen overhears and starts yelling and attempting to approach me. The officer standing with her grabbed her by the arm. Karen yanked that arm out of the female officer's hand and shoved her, surprisingly knocking the officer down. Karen is screaming incoherently as she charges towards me. Lieutenant steps in front of me and with his taser hits Karen with the most beautiful sound in the world. Bzzzt. Karen goes limp and just face plants in the dirt and the gravel of the lot and skids slightly to a stop. They immediately handcuff her. Turns out Karen had walked onto the lot carrying the bolt cutters while I was in the office talking with staff about the 2 cars I needed to adjust. She'd been roaming the lot until she saw me, and I happened to be near her car. Karen was charged with burglary, 2 counts of tampering with evidence, assault on a police officer, assault on me, trespassing and resisting arrest. I know Karen did jail time, but I'm not sure how much. Years later, the tow company I now own impounded her car for being double parked. She remembered who I was and paid quietly.